Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. The baby monitor crackled and my phone lit up over again. I killed the screen with my thumb and wiped my palm. Footsteps hit the hallway and the doorknob turned slow. I stepped toward the sink to look busy, too late. I'm Alex, 34, and the lie was already moving. Mara came in with the bottle and that clipped stare. "Who keeps texting you?" She set the bottle down hard. "Work," I said, and my throat closed like a trap. 3 dots pulsed on the dark screen, then an address. Ava never asked twice, and that was the hook. Mara watched my face for the twitch I couldn't bury. "Put her to sleep," she said, and she didn't blink. I rocked the baby and counted breaths that wouldn't settle. A car horn snapped outside and my pulse jumped. I slid the phone into my back pocket, loaded. "Back in 10, I muttered, and Mara's jaw tightened. The hallway felt narrow and the front door stuck. I pulled it free and the hinge screamed like it knew. Cool air hit and I tasted metal that wasn't there. My feet kept going because stopping would explode everything. 2 streets down, I called a car and cursed the clock. Ava texted a photo cropped tight, no room for doubt. I told myself this was the last spin on the wheel. The ride arrived and I got in like I belonged. Long day, the driver tried small talk and I nodded. I watched my reflection in the window, thin and guilty. The map inched forward and my stomach inched lower. Somewhere behind me, the bottle warmed in silence. Ava's building rose plain and indifferent, no welcome, no warning. She opened before I knocked and took my wrist. No greeting, just a step back that dared me across. I crossed because the truth had lost traction. Her room was spare and efficient, nothing sentimental, nothing slow. She kissed me quick, then reached for my hand. My wedding band scraped her knuckle and she smiled small. I took it off and felt something vital tumble. After, the shower hissed and my phone buzzed again. Ava glanced at the screen and tossed it back. "You're shaking," she said, and turned the water hotter. I watched steam climb and thought about sirens. I left before sunrise with a new lie rehearsed. The street was empty and the air cut clean. I walked past a trash bin and almost confessed to it. Home waited 3 turns away, loaded with questions. The porch light burned and the door was unlocked. Inside, the monitor hummed and the bottle sat empty. Mara was awake on the couch with our girl on her chest. Her eyes found my left hand first, bare and trembling. Her stare dropped to my bare knuckle, then rose fast. "Where is it?" She shifted the baby higher and waited. "In the bathroom," I said, and my tongue dried out. "Get it," she said, and the room pulled tight. I moved to the sink and opened the drawer. The band scraped porcelain as I slid it back on. Skin beneath it was pale and obvious. She tracked the motion like a referee about to blow. "Why was it off?" Her voice landed low and steady. "It pinched during dishes," I answered with a shrug. The lie came out clean and wrong. She adjusted the blanket and did not blink. Her phone vibrated on the couch and then went quiet. Mine lit again and I angled my hip away. "Let me see." She held out her hand like a warrant. I laughed once and it sounded borrowed. After I feed her, I stepped toward the nursery door. Now her fingers tapped her forearm in a slow rhythm. I unlocked the screen and hesitated halfway through. A new preview flashed at the top like a flare. I flipped it and set it face down on the table. "Password." Her eyes did not leave my face. "It's the same as the laptop," I tried to joke. "Give it or I call my sister right now." I typed it and placed the phone in her palm. Her thumb hovered as if it might burn her. Silence stretched long enough to expose everything. She scrolled once and stopped at the address thread. "What is this?" She turned the screen toward me slowly. "Vendor pickup," I said, and my knees felt loose. She handed the device back as if contaminated. "Take the trash out," she told me, voice gone flat. Outside, cold air slapped me awake and mean. I stood by the can and counted to 20. I checked the screen and deleted the top message. Another one landed before I finished swiping. Over again, a room number and a time. No hearts, no names, just coordinates and intent. I started to type, "Shut it down now." I erased it and wrote, "I cannot come." "Are you out there or gone?" Her voice punched through the door. "Coming." I shoved the can back and walked inside. She was already standing, baby on her shoulder. Take her, she said, and her jaw barely moved. The baby fussed and then settled against my chest. Shower, she said, and the way she moved was clipped. Water started down the hall and pipes knocked hard. I felt the vibration and thought of the other shower. I sat, the couch seemed harder than it used to be. The band dug into the indent it had abandoned ear. Liar. I rocked small and tried to slow my racing head. The baby breathed against me like a metronome with teeth. Water stopped, footsteps came back tight and quick. She stood across from me and folded her arms. Who is Ava? The name rolled out like a blade. My heart stalled and then hammered against my ribs. I looked down at our daughter and then back up. A client, I said, and the word tasted like chalk. Clients scheduled pickups in motel rooms, one eyebrow rose. She had merchandise to sign out, I pushed forward. She, the syllable hung there loaded and heavy. Hand me the phone again, her fingers opened. I handed it over and watched her read. She scrolled, paused, scrolled, and the silence grew sharp. There is no last name anywhere, she said without moving. I use first names for speed, I shot back too fast. Call her, she pointed to the screen with a small shake. My thumb hovered over the contact while my lungs stalled. The ringtone filled the space like a fire alarm. Pick up, please pick up. Voicemail jumped in and I killed the call early. That's convenient, she said, and the room shrank. Work lines are messy at night, I tried again. Then text her right now and ask for the invoice. I typed a request with forced punctuation and sent it. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then came back. Invoice ready at our usual place, 30 minutes. She read it aloud and something flickered in her eyes. Our usual place, she repeated, and an ugly laugh escaped. Take me with you, she said, and set the baby in the crib. I swallowed. She will not meet if you come. Then I will wait outside, she replied through clenched teeth. My chest tightened because that was checkmate. Fine, I said, and pulled on a jacket with stiff arms. We walked to the car and neither of us spoke. My fingers missed the keyhole twice before it turned. She leaned back and strapped in like a passenger on trial. The drive started slow and every light felt hostile. Halfway there, her hand reached across and pressed my knee. Turn around if I am wrong, she said very quietly. I gripped the wheel until my knuckles blanched hard. I did not turn and the truth climbed into the front seat. The motel sat behind a strip of closed shops. She stared straight ahead and inhaled once like a diver. I will be right here, she murmured while unclicking the belt. If you get out, this marriage ends tonight. I killed the engine and stared at the door with the number. A text pinged and told me room open. I unlocked the door again and locked it again. My hand hovered over the handle like it belonged to someone else. Choose, she said, eyes on the glove compartment now. I pictured the room's silence and the bed I had already stained. I pictured our daughter's tiny fist gripping my ring finger. I opened the door a crack and then closed it hard. No, I said, and my voice sounded older. I threw the phone into the back seat and faced her. I crossed a line and I am done, it shook but held. Her mouth tightened and tears pooled without falling. Drive home, she said after a long beat that burned. I pulled out and did not check the mirror. My throat worked and nothing useful came up. Her palm stayed on her lap as if touching me would contaminate her. 2 blocks away, she finally spoke again, very calm. You will tell me everything tomorrow at 9. Everything, I repeated, and the word weighed a ton. Sleep somewhere else tonight, she added and stared at the road ahead. I parked outside our place and listened to the ticking engine. She opened her door and did not wait for me. Inside, she lifted our daughter and kissed her hair. I stood in the hall with my keys and a quiet that roared. 9 hit and she sat across from me with folded arms. Start, she said, and the clock ticked loud in my head. I nodded and felt the chair bite into my thighs. I met her twice, I said, and my chest tightened. Where? Her fingers drummed once, then went still. Near the highway, I answered, and heat crawled up my neck. Her eyes narrowed as if measuring my pulse. How many messages today? She asked, and I blinked. 4. I placed my phone on the table and pushed it over. Open the thread, she said, without taking her gaze off me. I unlocked it and scrolled until last night's plan. Her mouth twitched as if fighting a word she refused. Condoms, the single word landed like a hammer. Yes, the answer scraped out and I stared at my shoes. Every time, she asked and her heel tapped once. Yes, I said again and my stomach lurched. Any photos, she asked, voice flat and controlled. Two, I said, and my ears rang like I was underwater. Delete them in front of me, she said without blinking. I erased both and emptied the folder while she watched. Blocked, she said, and I felt the order like cuffs. I scrolled to the contact and hit the red button. A warning popped up in my thumb pressed down hard. Show me your email, she added, and my ribs ached. I opened the inbox and filtered by her name. Nothing showed because we kept it in messages. She leaned forward and studied my face for cracks. Turn off cloud sync, she said, and I obeyed. Did you ever bring her here? Her tone sharpened by degrees. No, I forced myself to look right at her. Would you have if I had slept longer? She asked. I swallowed and did not trust my throat. Her gaze shifted to the clock and back to me. You will get tested this week, she said very quietly. I nodded fast and kept my hands on my knees. You will tell your brother you need a couch, she added. I can stay in the guest room, I tried once and stopped. She lifted one eyebrow and waited for courage. I will pack a bag, I said with no air behind it. Tonight, she said, and the word clicked like a lock. How did it start? She asked, eyes never leaving mine. I told her about the first message without adding excuses. I told her about the second meeting and the week shutdown. I did not dress it up, and that choice hurt. Did you plan to keep both lives? She asked after a beat. No, I said, because lying again would kill something final. I wanted to stop and failed, I added with both hands open. She stared at my open palms as if they were evidence. You held our daughter afterward, she said, and her voice shook once. I nodded, and the shame burned hotter than any fever. Say out loud what you did to us, she demanded. I stepped out and put all of us at risk, I said. Who else knows? She asked, and her face hardened. No one, I replied, and that part was true. Good, she said, and exhaled through her nose like a runner. You will tell the therapist exactly this, she continued, and I flinched. I will schedule it right now, I said with shaky fingers. You speaker, she said, and slid the device back. I dialed and left a message with my voice clear. She listened for wobble and found plenty. You will also give me location access, she said, eyes steady. I opened settings and handed control without bargaining. She toggled permissions and watched the icon appear. From now on, full visibility, she said, and my breath caught. 2 questions left, she said, and my pulse thudded. Do you still want this family? She asked first. Yes, I said, and the word came out rough. Will you cut Ava for good? She asked second. Yes, I said again, and this time it landed clean. She studied my face for the lie and did not find one. Prove it by calling from my phone, she ordered. I dialed and let it ring until voicemail swallowed us. I spoke into the tone like a defendant. This ends now, I said, careful and final. If you contact me again, I will inform my wife, I added. I hung up and felt my hands tremble. She picked up her keys and pointed to the door. You have 1 hour to pack, she said like a judge. Bring the car seat back by noon, she added without pause. Her lips pressed tight as if holding back a shout. I stood and the chair legs scraped the floor. She did not move, and I moved around her. At the doorway, she stopped me with a fingertip on my sleeve. If there is one more secret, we are done, she whispered. I walked to the bedroom and opened the closet. Every item I chose felt like a confession in cotton. My hands shook as I zipped the bag all the way. In the hall, she waited with the monitor cradled like a shield. Keys, she said, and I placed them in her palm. Take the spare, she added, and reached into the drawer. The metal touched my skin and felt heavier than before. Do not knock late, she warned, and the warning stuck. At the door, I paused and looked back once. She rocked gently and kept her eyes on our child. I wanted to cross the room and kneel and beg. Instead, I stepped outside and let the latch click like a verdict. I crashed on my brother's couch and did not sleep. He tossed me a blanket and waited for an explanation. Marriage trouble, I muttered and stared at the ceiling. Fix it or leave, he said, and turned off the lamp. At 8 sharp, I booked the tests in a therapist slot. I watched the confirmation appear and felt the ground tilt. I texted her the times and offered the car seat. By noon, came back fast and the dot vanished. At the clinic, a nurse handed me a clipboard. My pen hovered while my stomach clenched hard. I signed fast and gave blood without making noise. The tape pulled hair when it came off deserved. Back at the car, my screen lit with an unknown number. "Where are you?" came through with a smirking emoji. I blocked it without opening and locked the settings. My reflection in the glass looked older than yesterday. I parked outside the house at 11:58. She opened the door a notch and kept the chain. I set the seat on the mat and stepped backward. "Receipts for the tests," I said, holding up my phone. She reached through the gap and took a photo. "Send the portals when you have them," she said flat. "Therapy at 6 on Thursday," I added with dry lips. She nodded once and closed the door with quiet force. I stood there until my brother texted a question mark. On the walk back, I rehearsed an apology that changed shape. Every version collapsed before the last sentence landed. I deleted them all and called the therapist's office. The receptionist confirmed and told me to arrive early. "Payment up front," she added, and I swallowed anger. Good, pain felt like rent for what I wrecked. I put the phone away and made a new rule. At 5, a notification pinged from our shared calendar. Gym orientation booked for tomorrow morning, adult class. The word adult hit hard because we were not acting like it. I texted, "I will watch our daughter while you train." No answer. 20 minutes later, another ping. Groceries pickup moved to later, schedule tight. I offered to handle it and drop at the porch. Fine came back and nothing else followed. At pickup, a worker rolled a cart to my trunk. Expecting another, his eyes flicked to the baby seat. "Just helping out," I said and signed with a shaky hand. My phone buzzed again while he walked away. A screenshot slid in from an unknown email. My picture outside Ava's door, timestamp visible. "Delete your blocks or I send more," the subject threatened. I felt my lungs close and opened a new draft. I forwarded it to myself and to a folder. Then I wrote back to the sender without emotion. "Contact me again," and I informed the police. I hit send and took a photo of the cart number. I dropped the bags on the porch and rang once. She opened and stared at me through the narrow gap. I showed her the threat and kept my voice low. Her eyes flashed and then cooled to stone. "You will file a report," she said with no hesitation. "I already drafted the email," I answered and showed proof. "We will change your number tonight," she added quickly. "Do it," I nodded, and she shut the door again. At the station, a tired officer took my statement. I handed over the screenshot and the timeline. He wrote a case number and told me to document everything. "Stop all replies," he warned, and I agreed instantly. Back at my brother's place, the couch felt like a punishment. I opened the cloud page and revoked every linked device. I wiped the backup and set alerts for new logins. One by one, doors closed that I should never have opened. At 9, she texted a photo from the living room. Our daughter on a blanket, fist jammed into a smile. She rolled, the message read, "Almost warm." The second message followed fast and erased the warmth. "Do not show up unannounced anymore," she added. "Coordinate in the calendar and wait for replies." I typed understood and deleted 3 longer drafts. I stared at the tiny grin until my eyes burned. Thursday arrived and I sat in the therapist's chair early. "State your goal in 1 sentence," she asked immediately. "Earn trust back without demanding comfort," I said slowly. "Good start," she nodded and clicked a pen like a metronome. She dug fast and did not let me dodge. "What feeling preceded the first choice?" she asked. "Resentment," I answered and felt shame ignite again. "What pattern will replace it this week?" she pressed. "Radical disclosure and accountability logs," I said out loud. She wrote that down and set 2 assignments. "Daily check in with your wife at a set time," she said. "Track cravings and call someone before any risky move." I left and texted the plan to the house. 5-minute voice call at 9 each night proposed. "Try it for 7 days," came back after a pause. My shoulders dropped a notch, which scared me. Next morning, the gym alert pinged at 6:50. I pulled into the driveway and waited in the car. She jogged out in leggings and avoided my eyes. "I will be back in an hour," she said through the window. I brought coffee, I lifted the cup, and she shook her head. "Focus," she said, and jogged down the block. I carried our daughter inside and started the timer. She gurgled and I breathed in counts of 4. Halfway through the hour, the unknown number called again. I declined and screenshotted the log as the officer advised. A new email arrived with a picture of my car. From the gym lot aimed at her exit doors. I called the station and gave them the update. Drive to the gym and stay visible, the officer instructed. Do not confront anyone, he added, and my hands trembled. I strapped the baby in and moved faster than I liked. At the gym entrance, she stepped out and froze. I lifted my phone and showed her the email subject. She scanned the lot and her jaw set hard. Get inside with her, she ordered, eyes still scanning. An employee walked over and asked if everything was fine. Someone is harassing us, she answered and handed him my phone. He flagged a manager who dialed security with quick motions. A patrol car rolled in before my pulse settled. The officer took statements and asked for names. I gave Ava's and the burner address that had pinged me. He told us to file a no-contact request immediately. He also asked if my wife wanted an escort home. She declined and then surprised me. I am not running from this, she told the officer. I am training through it, she added and looked at me. There was steel in that look and something else waiting. We drove home in tandem while the cruiser idled behind us. She carried our daughter inside and set her on the mat. From now on you install cameras and share the feed, she said. I agreed and opened the app before my shoes were off. That night our scheduled call rang at 9 exactly. How was your log, she asked, businesslike and firm. I read the list and listed every temptation and trigger. There was a long breath on the other end. Tomorrow we do this again, she said, then paused. Also, I joined a class for next month, she added. I waited for the rest and felt a warning coming. If you miss one check-in, we call a lawyer, she finished. Alarm buzzed and I was in the driveway already. She jogged out, zipped her jacket and tied her hair. I'll be 90 minutes, she said, voice steady and direct. Timer on, I answered and watched her stride away. Inside, I fed our daughter and logged the check-in. Cravings at 0, urges at 2, risk low. I noted the old pattern, trying to whisper. The whisper faded when the bottle emptied fast. Her message hit halfway through the session, class extended. Coach wants me in the advanced group, she wrote fast. Pride and fear crashed in my ribs at once. I typed good and pressed the period hard. I drove over and waited where cameras could see me. She walked out with a new band around her wrist. 6 weeks challenge, she said, cheeks flushed and focused. If I place, I keep training free. At home, she showed me the schedule without pausing. Early runs, evening circuits, weekend long work. I need mornings clear and no drama, she warned. You handle nights and logs and proof. I installed 2 more cams and synced her phone. She watched the feed update and nodded once. This is how we build a floor, she said. Anything shakes it and we stop. A letter arrived with the case number and notice. Restraining order approved after preliminary review, 30 days. We forwarded it to the burner address and blocked everything. Silence held for an hour and then broke. A new email came from a fresh handle, no subject. 3 words glared up like wet paint, see you soon. I forwarded it to the officer and waited, breathing shallow. She read it over my shoulder and tapped the table. We do not change plans, she said in lace sneakers. You take the stroller and meet me at mile 2. I nodded and strapped in and kept eyes scanning. Crowds gathered at the park and nerves buzzed hotter. She hit the marker hard and reached for water. A man in a hood turned toward us and froze. I raised my phone and aimed at his face. He pivoted away fast and melted toward the exit. I texted our location to the officer on duty. Patrol rolled in and spoke with the race director. We pointed out the paths and the hedge line. They walked that way while I kept moving. Keep going, she urged, breath clipped but fierce. If I stop now, I will resent you later. She ran ahead and I counted her steps out loud. The count steadied me more than the stroller wheels. At the finish, she doubled over and grinned through P. Lane? Personal best, she said, almost laughing and almost crying. She stood taller than the first week and shook out. Then her face shifted and the guard went back up. We still do 9 o'clock, she reminded, tone practical. Same rules and no victory laps, she wiped her forehead. I nodded and felt the old defensive urge twitch. I pushed it down and opened my notes. Afternoon brought a surprise call from the officer. They flagged a car lingering near our block all week. Plates lead to a rental tied to Ava, he reported. A warning has been logged and the company notified. I texted her the update and watched the typing bubble. Good, we keep documenting, she wrote, then a pause. Do not gloat and do not relax followed next. I closed my eyes and repeated both lines. Evening hit and I took the night shift early. Teething kicked off and the room became a battlefield. I paced and hummed and kept glancing at the camera. She walked in once and adjusted the swaddle with precision. 9 arrived and I answered on the first ring. She asked for the log and I read it clean. 2 triggers at the gym, 1 during the race. Actions, she prompted, and I listed every countermeasure. Tomorrow I add sparring, she said after my list. It scares me a little and I want that feeling. I heard the invitation under the challenge and breath slow. Do you want me there? I asked finally. Watch the baby and send me the feed, she replied. If I need you, I will text a single word. What word? I asked and my throat tightened. Now, she answered and the line went quiet. I slept on my brother's couch again and woke to pings. Her class had posted the leaderboard at dawn sharp. She sat third under a field of veteran names. I screenshotted and sent 3 clapping emojis. By lunch, a neighbor stopped me at the curb. You two okay? He asked with too much interest. He looked me up and down and smiled at nothing. I'm married, I said and walked without turning. I told her about it during the afternoon swap. That's new, she replied and tightened her shoelace. Log it as a different trigger, she added, eyes cool. Not all threads look like threads. We set up a shared spreadsheet and uploaded receipts. Therapy invoices, gym dues, security upgrades. She glanced at the totals and then at me. Consequences have costs, she said and closed the app. Evening fell and the house sounded like itself again. She rolled out her mat and our daughter cooed. Count for me, she said and started her set. I counted and watched her control return rep by rep. Halfway through, the doorbell flashed on the camera feed. A delivery sat on the step with no label. She raised a hand and I froze in place. Film me opening it, she ordered and moved forward. Inside was a single hotel key card in plastic. I felt the floor tilt and my mouth go dry. She slid it into a bag with tweezers and gloves. Evidence, she said and placed it on the shelf. We sent the footage to the officer and waited. He called back fast with a tight voice. Do not leave the house tonight, he instructed. Units will cruise your street on rotation. She looked at me and then at the crib. We hold our lines and we keep training, she breathed. If you break routine now, we lose ground. I nodded and set alarms for every hour. At midnight, the cruiser lights washed across our wall. She watched them fade and pulled her knees to her chest. I will not be prey, she whispered into the dark. I reached out and rested my palm near hers. She didn't pull away this time, not completely. Her fingers hovered and then touched the side of my hand. Tomorrow, she said, voice low and uneven. We test if you can stand next to me without wobbling. She tossed her gym bag to the doorway and pointed at the mat. Stand there and do not hover, her voice cut clean. Stroller goes here, feed is live, alerts on. I moved into position and locked my knees. The coach clapped once and partners circled like sharks. She touched gloves with a taller woman and set her chin. Breathe on my count, she told me without looking. 1, 2, 3, 4, I matched her rhythm and waited. First exchange landed hard and she answered sharper. Her shoulders found a groove and her feet bit the floor. I filmed every beat for the log with zero commentary. She glanced once and smirked like she dared me to flinch. My phone buzzed with a new message from a burner line. A selfie from a parked car with our street behind it. Leaving the door unlocked again, hero, want round 3. I forwarded to the officer and hit call on speed dial. Stay inside the facility, the dispatcher instructed quickly. Units are already near your block, the line clicked out. I mouthed update to her and drew a square in air. She slipped a jab cross and nodded like good, keep going. Second round opened with clinch work against the rope. She dug for underhooks and reversed the Presidio. Then, her partner grunted and tried a trip that failed. Coach shouted time and both stepped back, breathing hard. During water break, she came over and held out a glove. Shake, she said, eyes on mine, not on the room. I gripped the glove and let my hand stay steady. You're holding, she said quietly, do it outside too. Sparring resumed and intensity ratcheted without warning. Hands clattered fast and then slowed for a trap. She saw it half a second late and ate across. Her head snapped and I took one step forward before stopping. Freeze, she raised a palm and resumed movement. The partner overcommitted and she landed a tight counter. Coach yelled switch and new partners rotated in fast. I exhaled and swallowed the old rescue impulse. Phone pulsed again with a subject line in all caps. Open your door and look up, surprise waiting. I flagged the message and pinged the case number. The reply came back short, patrol on the doorstep. She finished the round and ripped the mouthguard out. Update, she bounced on her toes to keep from stiffening. Car outside the house, patrol engaged, I said. Then we finish here, she answered and jogged back in. The bell rang and her pace grew brutal and precise. She mixed levels and forced her partner into mistakes. I felt something give way inside me that wasn't panic. It felt like respect, finally louder than fear. Mid-combination, the gym door opened with a metallic cough. A woman stepped in with her phone raised like a badge. Her camera aimed directly at me and then at my wife. She smiled, slow and ugly, and walked toward the ring. Coach cut in fast and blocked her path with an arm. This is a private session, he announced with authority. The woman tried to slide past with a fake apology. Security moved from the desk and set a wall. My phone buzzed with a photo from inside the gym. Me on the sideline holding the stroller handle. Caption read, look at dad playing babysitter for internet points. I felt my throat heat but did not move 1 inch. She looked over and read my face like a clock. Don't give her a scene, she said crisp mid-bounce. Finish the round and then we deal with it. Then she stung the partner twice and pivoted free. Security asked the woman for her name and membership. She gave a fake last name and looked past them. Her gaze pinned me and then slid to my wife. Congrats on the post-baby bounce, she sneered with a wink. Out, the manager said with his hand extended. She turned and brushed his shoulder like it was a joke. Coach whistled and the class stilled to silence. Respect the space or leave in cuffs, he warned. She backed away with a grin that promised nothing good. At the door, she blew me a kiss and tapped her phone. A ping hit my screen with a hotel address again. I deleted it and turned the screen so everyone could see. The officer entered 2 minutes later with a partner. They asked for the intruder and got hands pointing. They requested video from the front desk and my feed. We sent everything with timestamps and contact headers. Her partner for the last round waited gloved up. She walked back into the ring and nodded once. Last 5, she told the coach and kept her eyes forward. She worked through the sequence and refused to look away. When the bell ended, she leaned on the rope, breathing hard. She held out her fist for the partner and bumped twice. I brought her towel and stayed outside the boundary. Good, she said between breaths, you didn't jump in. The officer returned with a printout for us to sign. No trespass notice issued and a report number listed. He asked if we wanted escort back to the house. She answered first with a sharp yes and a stare at me. We drove behind the cruiser and watched the mirrors. At our block, another unit idled across the street. The officer walked the perimeter while I unlocked the door. Clear, he called and then asked to place extra patrol. Inside, she set the stroller down and checked each camera. No movement, no packages, no shadows near the porch. She pointed at the calendar and tapped tonight's call. After 9, we prepare a joint statement for the officer. I opened the laptop and wrote clean bullet points. Times, locations, contact attempts, responses. She corrected 2 lines and added 1 more detail. Put this in too, she said and slid the hospital key photo over. We hit send and watched the confirmation bounce back. Then she closed the computer and turned to face me. Now you tell me why you wanted chaos, she said. I felt my mouth go dry and answered without padding. I wanted validation without doing the work, I said. I resented your absence and used it as fuel. I chose the shortcut and pretended it was need. Her eyes stayed on me, unblinking and exact. Say it simpler, she pushed, arms folded like a brace. I betrayed both of you because I was selfish, I said. I'm replacing impulse with structure until trust returns. She nodded once like keep going or we stop here. Show me the structure, she demanded, palms open. I handed her my log and the accountability sheet. I walked her through checklists and the escalation plan. I pointed to the contact tree and the relapse traps. She read fast and circled 2 weak spots with a pen. Add triggers for unexpected praise and public attention, she said. Add a rule for travel and overnight stays. I typed both while she watched letters appear. The baby stirred and then settled with a soft cough. We both turned and waited for the next breath. She took one step nearer and tested the air between us. Hold your ground, she whispered and didn't look away. My phone rang with the therapist reminder for later. She glanced at it and then at the clock on the stove. Invite me to the next session, she said after a beat. I want to hear you own it with someone else in the room. I will send the appointment link now, I replied. She watched me type and accepted the invite on her device. Her thumb hovered and then pressed confirm with finality. Good, she said, no secrets left to entertain. An alert flashed, unknown number attempted login on my cloud. I flagged it and forwarded to the officer immediately. Then I changed the password with her watching the keys. She smiled without warmth but with something close to approval. Evening came and I cooked something simple while she stretched. She coached herself through mobility with small, precise cues. I kept the baby on a blanket and practiced our timing. Every small success felt like a new rung on a ladder. 9 landed and our scheduled call happened across the table. I reported urges and actions with exact numbers and examples. She asked 3 follow-ups and added 2 corrective notes. Then she closed her eyes and exhaled through her nose. I am still here, she said finally, voice rough but steady. I am not promising forever, I am promising today. Tomorrow depends on what you do between now and then. The words hit like a verdict I could live with. We cleaned up and reviewed the camera grid once more. She synced the night notifications and set a hard boundary. If the phone lights up for her, you wake me, she said. Otherwise, you own the night watch in the logs. Close to midnight, a car slowed out front and lingered. I lifted the phone and tapped the officer's shortcut. The cruiser rounded the corner and the car moved on. She watched my face and measured the tremor that didn't come. She slid closer on the couch and looked me over. You're steadier, she said, like a fact, not a gift. You keep this up and I keep training up. Her hand rested on my forearm and waited for a flinch. I held still and counted 10 without breaking the gaze. She looked toward the hallway and then back at me. I'm back in my body, she said, quiet and fierce. Find a way to be worthy of it tomorrow.